Well, now let's bring you the latest news updates. We start from the presidency, and President Nana Addo Dankwa has challenged the Muslims population in Ghana to report suspicious characters in their neighborhoods to help foil any possible terror attack in the country. In the wake of terror alerts by security experts and with also a report of recent terrorist attacks in neighboring Burkina Faso, the president urged people residing in various Zongo communities across the country not to allow people with terrorism intent to take advantage of Ghana's hospitality. Delivering a speech at the 2019 Eid celebration at the Blaster Square here in Accra, President Akufo-Addo also challenged Muslims in Ghana not to go back to business as usual after the spiritual journey they've already undertaken over the last 29 days.
After 29 days of fasting and intense prayers by the Muslim population in Ghana and around the world, the National Chief Imam, Sheikh Osman Nuhu Sharubutu, led thousands of Muslim men and women to perform the voluntary prayers at the Independence Square here in Accra. The prayers were followed by a sermon in which the National Chief Imam urged the Muslim population to live in peace with Muslims and non-Muslims.
So the president just arrived here at the Independence Square, and that follows the khutbah delivered by the National Chief Imam Sheikh Osman Nuhu Sharubutu, where he called on Muslims to live in peace and harmony with non-Muslims. The Chief Imam has been preaching this everywhere he's been, that both Muslims and Christians are the descendants of Adam and Eve, and so there is no reason whatsoever for Muslims to fight Christians or for Christians to fight Muslims. The president in the background has just arrived and is expected to deliver his speech to mark the commemoration of the 2019 Eid al-Fitr celebration here. Let's take a listen to what the president had to say.
Beautiful spectacles that unfold in our country should not be taken for granted. We must continue to work to preserve our culture of religious tolerance. We cannot surrender this beautiful way of life for anything, and certainly not to people who seek to pervert religious beliefs. I urge all of you not to let agents provocateurs destroy our unique way of life. I know you've read of threats and actual attacks by Christian and Muslim miscreants in the West Africa region and other parts of the world. We do not ever want this phenomenon to occur in our country. Whilst the security agencies work to keep all of us safe, I encourage you to report suspicious characters who come into your communities to take advantage of our well-acclaimed hospitality to unleash mayhem on our country to the police.
The president also announced that the Finance Ministry has issued clearance for the utilization of the much-discussed Zongo Development Fund.
I'm happy to announce that the Minister for Finance has signed a commencement warrant for the Ministry of Inner Cities and Zongo Development to begin spending on Zongo communities from the Zongo Development Fund allocation in the 2019 budget. The provision of water system, rehabilitation of school blocks, and the building of new ones, provision of desks for Islamic schools, and the rehabilitation of tertiary drains among.
With the clearance given by the Finance Ministry, it is expected that development in the Zongos kickstart with speed. Latif Idris, JoyNews, Accra.
And so dwelling on Zongo communities, if you live in one of them, you have been wondering when government will start disbursing the Zongo Development Fund. Well, the Vice President apparently has some answers. Dr. Mahmoud Baumia says the Minister of Finance has assigned the commencement warrant for the Ministry of Inner City and Zongo Development to begin spending on the Zongo Development Fund allocation in the 2019 budget. He adds the disbursement of the fund will solve many developmental challenges in Zongo communities across Ghana. Dr. Mahmoud Baumia made the statement when he joined Orthodox Muslims at the Na Sidiki Bomi Second Park for the open congregation prayers yesterday.
This is the first time a sitting vice president has joined Muslims for Eid al-Fitr prayers in the Upper West region. Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Baumia joined tens of thousands of worshippers of the Orthodox Muslim faith for the 2-rakat open congregational prayer led by the Imam of Jami, Dr. Suleiman Bakuri. He prayed for the nation and President Akufo-Addo.
You protect and save Mother Ghana from calamities befalling in our neighboring countries. Our Lord, we pray and ask that you grant our President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, perfect physical and mental health, as well as the more needed wisdom, patience and faith to steer the affairs of Ghana to our desired destination.
Vice President Dr. Baumia announced to the worshippers the signing of the commencement warrant for the Zongo Development Fund.
I'm happy to announce that the Minister for Finance has signed the commencement warrant for the Ministry of Inner Cities and Zongo Development to begin spending on the Zongo communities from the Zongo Development Fund allocation in the 2019 budget. The provision of water systems, rehabilitation of school blocks, and the building of new ones, provision of desks for Islamic schools, and the rehabilitation of tertiary drains, amongst many other projects, will help resolve some of the many challenges that bedevil our Zongo communities.
Turning to threats and attacks by Muslim and Christian miscreants in West Africa and other parts of the world, Dr. Baumia urged Muslims and Christians in the country to work together and report suspicious characters who takes advantage of the country's hospitality to unleash mayhem in the country. 51-year-old Burkinabe Desiree Bilgo was arrested last Sunday at the Roman Catholic Church at Hambele with a full-loaded gun.
I applaud the vigilance of Gregory Bangbeme and George Bonfodon, members of the Roman Catholic Church in Hamile in the Upper West region, who together with church leaders alerted the police about the presence in the church of an armed person who turned out to be a national of our neighboring country of Burkina Faso. That person is in police custody.
Vice President Dr. Baumia later dined with leaders of the various Muslim groups in the region. They were joined by their counterparts from the Christian community, led by the Bishop of the Ward Diocese, Most Reverend Richard Kun-Yeba Wob. Dr. Baumia praised the two religious groups for tolerating each other's views and working to uphold the peace and unity in the country.
In fact, Ghana has something very special that for now many countries in Europe have lost, and we should hold on very, very dearly to what we have. Our culture, our religious tolerance, the unity that we have in this country is very, very special.
Meanwhile, Deputy Upper West Regional Minister Amidu Chine Isaku also joined worshippers of the Ahmadiyya Muslim movement. Most of the worshippers, gorgeously dressed in white apparel, performed the open congregational prayer at the Jujureri Garden. The prayer was led by Maulvi Muzaffar Masroor Ahmed. Amidu Chine Isaku stressed on the need for people to be tolerant with each other.
We have lived together for many years as Muslims, Christians, and traditionalists without any major problem. Let everybody recognize the fact that religious faith depends on the individual, and therefore we must continue to tolerate one another despite our different faiths.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam. Wow.
Now let's move on to some other stories. And some residents of Ashia here in Accra have encroached the spillway on the bank of a major retention dam, exposing it to the risk of flooding. Residents admit the dam overflows its banks whenever there is a heavy downpour, and sometimes breaking walls and destroying properties alongside. Well, so far, they've refused to relocate. JoyNews' Kwesi Parker-Wilson visited the area and brings us the latest.
The dam, which sits on a 3.6-acre land at Ashie Fulani, has only one source of spillway. And yet, this is the same outlet that has been illegally occupied by some of the residents. As far back as January this year, the Adenta Municipal Assembly directed them to demolish the structures sitting on these waterways. But the residents ignored the warnings. Robert Tagbo is one of them.
But I
know we are not supposed to be here, even though we suffer a lot whenever it rains. We will not relocate unless government intervenes.
Oh, Massa, I just say government in Bem.
Another resident, Jifa Mensa, narrates to JoyNews how her wall was destroyed by the waters. She, however, believes the only way government could curb the looming disaster is to expand the spillway.
When the June-July downpour, the heavy one comes, it do flood here. It once broke about the fence wall. The broken walls, you have prepared the sea defense. And whenever the water comes, it goes as the dam is flowing. Actually, the dam we have has an entrance, or I would say a pass out. And recently we have a bridge there, but we realized that the bridge, the mouthpiece for the water is not big enough. That is creating a problem.
But Secretary to the Landlords Association, Emmanuel Afanyo, disagrees. He is demanding government moves in to stop the encroachment.
Anytime we go for meeting, we caution the residents to stop, because no one bought this land. The banks, people are just encroaching on it. No one purchased it with money. So we asking them to to stay away from the banks, to make the river flow easily. But they refused.
Do you think there's a waiting disaster?
Oh yes. Really, that day it nearly even took away people's lives when it rained last year in June. They should stay away from the banks of the river so that we can have our peace. And for the government to enforce measures that will restrict people from building at the banks.
Meanwhile, the MC for the area, Alexander Ninoy Adumwa, says over 80 illegal structures have since been earmarked for demolition to avert any potential disaster.
Earlier in our discussion, I told you about 84 buildings would have to be pulled down to allow the water to have its course. But you are the same journalists who will come here when that thing happens. And then you come and say that we are not attaching a human face to some of these things. It is important to realize that we need to resolve these issues. If we do not, we'll find ourselves in trouble. But at the same time, some of these people some have built in roadways. We're trying to get the roads, and everybody is asking for the road. You're trying to get those people who are on the roadways to move. But sometimes you have to use legal means. The legal machinery grinds slowly. So it is important that we satisfy some of these things before we go full out, because some infractions have been done. Do you get the point? In correcting them, we must not be seen to be encouraging more infractions. And when you get up to come and do these things, you recognize the fact that these people are also people who have families, etc. So you need to work at it. But people seem to be indisciplined. There's the need for us to bring some amount of discipline into the spatial development, or spatial planning and physical development of the Adenta municipality or enclave. So this is what we are going to do.
So you see, About 84 houses have been identified for demolition. When should we expect this exercise to be carried out?
Leave that to us. Leave that to us. And when it happens, you find out. Putting it on air and saying that it will happen on this particular day, when I know that there are other institutions who will be involved in it, who are yet to respond to our call, does not make any this thing. But we want to solve a problem that we have on hand.
From Accra, let's take you to the Ashanti region. And water distribution companies and customers have had to sometimes engage in arguments because the latter think they are being cheated. Well, though research has shown that meter readers sometimes make mistakes, households also could not exonerate themselves from perceived overconsumption of water. Thankfully, a smart prepaid water metering system developed by computer engineering student of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology is said to save the cost of operation of water distribution services and subsequently ensure prompt payment of water bills. On Tech Thursday, Lava Firm's Kwesi Debra speaks with the students behind the great innovation.
A 2008 research showed water consumption in Kumasi was between 177 litres per day for high-income households to 70 litres for low-income households under continuous water supply. According to North Carolina Department of Environment and Natural Resources, water efficiency means using improved technologies and practices that deliver equal, better service with less water.
Refusing to turn off the taps after use is commonplace. But do you know a running tap wastes about 6 litres of water per minute?
There's also concern householders on low incomes are less able to invest in water efficiency measures. The final year students, Audi Eric Ochre, Kwam Silvanus and Ebenezer Azuma with the supervisor Benjamin Comey decided to design a meter which can measure the volume of water consumed electronically, synchronize meter record remotely and track and update metering data remotely. Ebenezer Azuma.
Or a prepaid water meter that allows users to track their meter data or their volumes consumed remotely through an app, and also admin people or a company, water companies can track all meters that is being deployed globally or even in the country using this system.
The system consists of a web app, a hardware having a processor, and a mobile app. As water begins to flow through the meter, it sends pulses to the controller. Once it calculates it, it takes it to the remote server. The remote server calculates the bill and gives a real-time plot of meter consumption and flow rate. Kwam Silvanus.
Imagine that your water is overflowing in your absence. So when you have the plots, you realize that it will give you the real time, and to be able to interpret that, oh, I'm not around, but there's still it's still taken. So that means that there's a problem with your meter, or probably somebody has left the tap opened.
The mobile app uses mobile money to make payment for water consumed. Audi Eric Ochre.
So this is the payment screen where a customer will see a list of all the payments that he has made. So we can see on the screen the list of all the payments he has made, the method in which he made all those payments. And then a customer can also make a payment by just tapping on this particular icon. So when he taps, you see this screen. If he's using mobile money, he can just enter the phone number, and then we are displaying the ID of that particular customer, and then he can enter the amount that he wants to pay. Once he enters those details and click Pay Now, automatically it will be sent and then recorded at our end. The one controlling or the one sitting at the admin office will see that the customer has paid his balance.
The innovators say they'll be incorporating artificial intelligence analytics, which will enable the billing system study usage patterns and intelligently predict bills. It will recommend efficiency measures for users to meet their set targets. Users will be able to detect leakages and remotely shut water supply to homes to prevent bill escalation and water wastage. The innovators say there's also potential application in community water systems and community irrigation systems. They say it to be useful in the current government's One Village, One Dam project, where water supplied to various farms from an irrigation source could be intelligently metered and accounted for. Reporting for JoyNews, Kwesi Deborah.
Well, great innovation there. Such innovations ultimately creates more employment opportunities for young people. And talking about the absence of employment, we're talking about unemployment. And for our last story, we're focusing on that. And to bridge the unemployment gap, government would have to create at least some 300,000 new jobs annually. And that's according to a World Bank report. Well, former Deputy Ashanti Regional Minister Andy Osei-Okra believes that that's apparently, looking at the current state of events, impossible. He says rather the youth need to be imparted with job creation skills. He was speaking at the 10th year anniversary celebration of the Young Professionals in Youth Coalition, the YPYC, here in Accra.
I believe the problem, as I was indicating to you, is the young people, the youth themselves should have the personal leadership. Some of them lack the direction, the mentality, the mindset that I'm going to invest in, and after that I need to come for somebody to give me job. The mentality you used to go through school, you finish and carrying your CV is something we are also working at that. That you know that you are developing yourself such that you can also create job. And so that is what, so that we can reduce the youth unemployment. Because obviously, when you look at the developed world, young people, Mark Zuckerberg and rest, sat somewhere and they've created job for all of us. So why can't you also sit here and create job for the world? And that's what we are talking about this year, strategic positioning of young leaders and young entrepreneurs for Ghana's transformation. So I believe that the psyche of our young people needs to be changed, and that can create jobs. Government can never sufficiently produce jobs to cover every young people. That one should be stated clearly.
Andy Osei-Okra. He ends our bulletin for the morning. But we have more news. We'll be looking at what stories have been published on the front and back pages of the newspapers. Please make sure that for the rest of the hours when we're here on the show, you're interacting with us on Facebook, JoyNews on TV, Twitter handle, JoyNews on TV, and also through our YouTube channel, My Joy Online TV. Please, we have some great conversations. We want to run by you or educate you on how we tend to do good television broadcasts through the digital terrestrial television broadcast policy and its framework, and how the Independent Broadcasters Association is also playing a critical role in its whole rollout. Please stay with us.